IEVA's brand ambassador. So I am here to talk about living with an EV. Well, I'm not here to talk about it. My guests are. So we have Annette Lynch Conway, the Vice Chair of the Irish EV Association. We have Corbett, the CEO for Sandyford Business District. And we have Conor Lanigan, from Applegreen Electric. Welcome. So we'll get straight into it, okay? And we'll talk about your journey with an electric car, Annette. So tell me.
So I bought my first electric car back in 2015. I had probably researched it for maybe 4 or 5 years before that. But what convinced me to buy it was when I met another woman driving one, and I stopped her and I said, "What's the story here? Is it as good as what people are promoting?" And she said it was fabulous. She was able to drive from Youghal to Cork every day and back, and the range that she was doing was similar to what I was doing. So I went and I bought it. Now the only regret that I had was that I hadn't bought it sooner. I had been 5 years researching it, and I should have probably bought it maybe a year or two into it.
So you're happy?
I'm so delighted, yeah. I wouldn't ever go back to a petrol or a diesel car again.
I think that's what everyone says, isn't it? Ger, what's your journey with an electric car?
First one in 2019, it was a company car, the Hyundai Conway. At the time I had been researching a couple of different options, and there was the original Ioniq, and there was the Golf. There wasn't much else really at that stage. And just before I went to make a decision, somebody suggested the Conor to me. And it worked out really well from the range perspective. It was about 3 times the range of the other two cars. It was a really good car. Just sat outside the office all day, so it was a great opportunity to charge it. Because the cars sit there for 95% of their time anyway, so an EV is well placed. Yeah, it was really good. It worked out for me. I was travelling 5 days a week, so I didn't have any major long journeys. I had zero range anxiety that everybody talks about. So those are, possible journeys to Donegal that don't happen. But so far, so good. Left that company, so the car went back with it. So now back on the journey of trying to replace a petrol with a specific EV. So had the opportunity to drive a BYD CEO recently, which was fantastic.
Amazing. That was just last week, was it? Okay. Are you interested?
Yeah, very much so. I was pleasantly surprised. I spent the first 2 or 3 hours driving the car trying to find a fault with it, which you don't normally get in a car. Certainly for the price bracket it's in, it's head and shoulders above the competition. For me, look, it's a personal choice. I was very reluctant to hand the keys back when I did.
And Conor, I believe you are driving a Cooper Born at the moment?
Yeah.
So tell me about your journey with an electric car.
So I suppose with the industry we're in now, it's important that I kind of became exposed to the everyday situations that typically EV drivers would be in. I've had the benefit of driving a couple of different company cars as well, similar to Ger, not as many as Derek. I think my experience has been fairly positive overall. I've never found myself in any kind of situation where I was anxious about my range or curious, couldn't find a charge point. Overall, very positive experience.
Yeah, so my experience is the same. I really enjoyed driving an electric car. I started driving an electric car about 6 months ago, I think it was. Now, on my first day, so I got the car one day, the next day I was driving to West Cork. So I went in the deep end pretty much. And since then, because obviously people had spoken about range anxiety, I never felt that because I went to West Cork on my first journey, so I did the toughest journey on the first day, and everything since has just been easy enough. What I have found is that you have to plan, and anyone that knows me knows I'm not a planner. I try, but I've turned into a planner now with an electric car. It's just about planning and knowing, where you need to stop. That's it. So let's talk about day living with an EV. Annette, so tell me, what's it like every day living with an EV?
So I probably charge my car maybe 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week. I travel.
Do you have, a charger in your house? Okay, amazing.
So I have a charger at home, and my work have put in 12 chargers at work as well. So if I was ever stuck, I could charge at work also. So really, it's just like plugging in your phone. It's so much easier, because sometimes previously, if you had to get petrol for work, you might have to go out on a Sunday night at 9 o'clock, so oh God, I have to get petrol. So you're driving somewhere to get petrol to come home, whereas all you have to do is go outside your front door and plug it in. It's so convenient. And then when you go to a petrol station and they say to you, do you have petrol? I said, no, just milk, just butter, just whatever, you know, and you're saving yourself 50 euros every time instead of having to go to the petrol station. And from bed in the morning, I can turn on the heating in my car, I can have my car defrosted, I can have it heated up. The convenience is just amazing.
It is great. And like you said, you have chargers at work and at home, so you're in a great position. I don't have a charger at home, so I have been charging as I go. So again, on the deep end side of things, and it's been fine. I just have to, I know the times when the charger will be a little bit quieter or that kind of thing, and it's perfect. I charge probably once a week unless I'm traveling far, and then obviously I charge a little bit more. But coming from, we're almost on different ends of, I guess, the spectrum. You can charge all the time. I can't, but it's still fine. Jer, what's your everyday life with an EV?
Well, certainly when I had an EV back in 19, I was driving to work every day, sitting at a desk for 8 hours, so I was never without fuel. Didn't have, as you mentioned, Sunday night, I had to get to the garage quickly, fuel for Monday morning. So never had that issue. So I think most people, apart from people on the road all the time, are going to a certain destination. Right? And if you don't have the charging opportunity there, you'll probably have one at home. So charging is readily available. There's a lot of noise about charging infrastructure in the country, and some of it rightly so, but at the same time, we don't all need to be travelling the length and width of the country, so you don't need to have a bank of 65 chargers in the petrol station. Okay? The other side of it as well is people are talking about not having to want to stop on the side of the motorway, spend 20 minutes boosting the charge. But most people who go off the motorway do that anyway, whether it's for a coffee or McDonald's, whatever they're getting. So it's there. I think there's just a bit of a hurdle around it. I'd never had any issues. As I said, I had the BYD recently for 4 days. It's 570 range, and I did a bit of driving in it, and I handed it back at 150, and I was fine. And even checking the app during that time, there's plenty of availability.
And it's true, Jer, what you're saying there about when you stop to charge, sometimes I'm stopping for 45 minutes. That's probably the longest, but it flies by. You can also get a lot of work done when you're sitting in the car. Now, I am just on my own, so I'm just like on the phone, getting work done. It's fine, but 40 minutes passes. Or if you charge a little bit more regularly, you can just be there for half an hour, and that works too. Conor, what's your everyday life like with your EV?
So I don't have a charger at home like yourself, so I understand the struggle sometimes. But for me, I don't do a lot of long range driving. I'm lucky kind of to and from work, going out on the weekends. But I've never found myself kind of worried with long range driving. Like, one thing I'd always say to someone when they bring up range anxiety is just ask yourself the question, how often would you typically drive 300 to 400 kilometers in one go? And that's the typical kind of range you see off an entry level EV. And look, if the answer is you do travel that distance regularly, I'd still argue there's enough infrastructure there to support you. Applegreen Electric now have chargers in 20 different locations around Ireland, and by the end of this year, we're going to say that 90% of the Irish population will be within a 30-minute this journey to one of our chargers. But I suppose just driving an EV, it's a very comfortable and fantastic experience. I think most EV drivers would agree with me that it'd be very difficult to go back to petrol or diesel after driving an EV. So it suits me perfectly.
I am one of the people that does drive quite regularly around Ireland, so I really am in the worst case scenario. I don't have a charger at home. I travel a lot, and it's fine. Anything it's ever done is just added an hour to my journey, really. And again, that's just down to planning. You just get used to it, and I can't explain how easy it's been for someone like me, who, like I said, is not organised. I find it amazing for travelling around. Now, you do get used to where the chargers are. You just get to know things. Some places are really easy to travel to. Dingle, which was surprisingly enough the furthest I've driven, and it was so simple. Just stopped once in Limerick, and then Dingle had so many chargers, so it was perfect. Annette, let's talk about EVs for everyone. Do you think they're suitable for everyone?
I think so. There's a huge range of cars now, from small cars to big cars to long range cars to short range cars. Very few people, besides maybe people who don't have chargers at home, and you seem to be doing a great job. Yeah, I would think that there's a car for everybody. At home I have 3 children, and the 3 of them would love to have electric cars each. So I'm hoping that when they're in the market for buying cars, that they'll be adopting the electric. Yeah.
Ger, what do you think? Are they for everyone?
Certainly, I mentioned earlier on that when I went to get one in 2019, it was very little choice. Now there's an amazing amount of choice for everybody. It's tiny little cars, where it's a Honda E right up to 7-seater Kia. We're a 2-car family, and we have a Kodiaq that's a workhorse 7-seater, fits all the kids in for play dates, so that's fine. And the other one is a saloon car. So up until a couple of years ago, there wasn't a huge amount of choice for saloon cars, but now there is. As I mentioned, the Seal, the Seal, the Ioniq 6, you've obviously got the Teslas, etc. There's a huge amount of choice, and that's only going to get bigger in the next 12 months as well. So I definitely think there is, and for all budgets. That certainly seems to be the way, like the MG as well, at the lower end of the bracket. So yeah, there's definitely lots of choice in there.
Conor, I'm going to ask you the same question. What do you think? Are they for everyone?
Definitely, yeah. I think that it's great to see some of the car brands coming in here now. I think EV is definitely becoming a lot more accessible. The prices are dropping, the technology is improving, batteries are getting bigger, ranges are getting longer. I think with the range you get off standard EV now, even entry level, 300-400 kilometres is more than enough for your everyday use.
And then again, it's just researching and figuring out which one you like. I was speaking about this earlier. It's just, well, you can do it very easy if you get in touch with Nevo. They know everything. So yeah, they're able to tell you what car would suit you. They can organise the test drives and everything like that. So it's just down to what you actually need, how far you drive, all that kind of thing. Annette, what would your top tips be to anyone who's thinking of switching to an electric car?
Well, one of the first things I would say would be to look up Nevo and see what cars are out there. The next thing I'd advise people to do is to look up the Irish EV Association, because you'll find lots of people there. We have 20,000 people on Facebook. So every car that's in the country, somebody on the Facebook page will have one, so you'll be able to get real life experience from people who actually drive the cars as to how they're getting on, how the software is, how the range is, and various other different things. So I'd say have a look at those. Yeah.
Ger, any top tips?
Yeah, so Cassie, you mentioned already, research is very important. Electric cars are completely different to petrol or diesel. I think you should say resources like Nevo, particularly with their YouTube videos and reviews that Derek does, is amazing. I would urge people to test drive. Alright, I've found it myself driving a few different cars. They're all very, very different. The feel of them is very different, the acceleration is very different. And if you do go ahead with one, treat it like it's a new smartphone. There's so much technology in this. To get the best out of a smart car, do the research before you get on the road. Like you mentioned earlier on about not planning, etc. But if you really, really understand what's in the car, you get the most out of it. You also know how to turn off some warnings as well, which are quite annoying. But definitely do the research, and obviously take other people's opinions on it, but it is quite a unique personal choice.
Do your research 100%. And sorry, you just mentioned how, well, accelerating the cars and stuff like that, they're all very fast. I just want to say that, like, they're all, I've driven 2, sorry, so I'm not covering all of them, but I've had this conversation before. Some people seem to think that they, you know, the smaller ones might not be that fast or give you as much as the other ones, but they are very quick. I'm driving an MG4, it's very quick. I'm not supposed to be going that fast though, but sorry, Derek. Conor, tell me, what do you think are the top tips for anyone here thinking of getting an EV?
I think the first thing you should do is download the Applegreen Electric app. No, look, just to follow on from what you guys have said, I think it's important that you become informed and be patient. Obviously, transitioning to EV comes with a learning curve, and that learning curve isn't just for the consumer, it's for CPOs like ourselves, it's for car manufacturers. It's still a very new technology, but we're here today. We have events like Nevo, Applegreen Electric. We're all here to support you on your transition.
Now, I know we only touched on range anxiety there, but Annette, did you ever get range anxiety?
In my first car I did. My first car was a 24 kilowatt Leaf, and I was driving from Cork to Tullamore or something, and I think I stretched it a bit too far, and I think I pulled into Midway in Port Leash with 1% left on the battery.
But that's still 1%. I've said it a few times to Derek. I don't actually know what happens. Does anyone know what happens when you go to 0%? Okay, Jer?
Yeah, it's called a flatbed truck.
Okay, so you have to get picked up.
Don't do it.
I won't. I've only gone down to 5%. It's because I had to. But anyway, I don't have it clearly because I can go down to 5%. Jared, did you ever get range anxiety?
Once. It was a company Christmas party in Kilkenny. Parked the car for the night, plugged it in, happy days. Woke up the next morning, the charger didn't work. So there was an error on the charger, it just didn't work all night. So I had to stay around for a few hours, click any boosting it. So again, back then, so that's 5 years ago. It's a different scene landscape now. And I arrived home at 7 kilometres on the drive from Kilkenny. So other than that, never.
It doesn't happen anymore. I've 64 kilowatt Leaf, and range anxiety is a thing of the past.
What about you, Conor? Range anxiety? Ever experienced it?
To be honest, no. I don't do a lot of long distance driving, but even like I've driven to Belfast and back in a day, 250 kilometres, still 100 kilometres left when I got home. I think it's great to see through Applegreen Electric and other CPOs, there's plenty of infrastructure being rolled out, and great to see grants and support from SEBI as well, which was announced the other day. So I think there's plenty of infrastructure there to support you once you plan your journey.
Yeah. And Annette, for you, charging. Have you ever had issues with charging? So people do ask me a lot about, well, actually, I run into people who don't know how to charge. It's either their first time charging, but there's people always there to help. Have you ever had any issues or anything like that?
Yeah, I've seen issues, and I remember, I think it was the first week that I had my 24 kilowatt Leaf, and it was my first time going to a fast charger, and I didn't know how to charge it. Nobody had shown me how to do it. I thought it was going to be easy. It was easy, but the first time doing things, you're unsure. So I plugged it in, it wasn't charging. I obviously had some button pressed somewhere, some timer on or something, and I didn't know what to do. There was no point ringing my husband because he knew nothing about electric cars. He thought I was off my head buying an electric car in the first place. None of my family had electric cars. So I actually got onto the Facebook page for the Irish EV associations, and I put in a message, cry for help. What do I do? I can't charge the car. And in fairness, one of the lads got on within 2 minutes and told me, you know, try this, try that, try the other thing. And I had the timer switch on. I turned that off, I was able to charge the car. And I joined the Facebook page, the committee then several years later, just to help promote the EV adoption and help people, yeah.
And you do find that people who are at the charging stations are quite helpful? I mean, if you want to just kind of give them a wave. I've had knocks on the window, like, no problem. But everyone is very helpful at them, which is amazing.
Extremely helpful. I've, even on our Facebook page, I was stuck for a cable one day, and somebody came on within half an hour and offered me a cable for my car and met me and let me take a loan of the cable for 2 weeks. I never knew this person, and 2 weeks later I gave them back the cable and a box of chocolates.
They're
some
friendly
flowers
bunch.
or something. Yeah.
Electric car drivers are a very friendly bunch. I don't mind that.
Something else that happened recently, it didn't happen to me, but I arrived at a car charger, and there was a guy there, he was nearly tearing his hair out trying to work out the charger and the car, and he had been there for about 30 minutes unable to work it out, and he had nobody to call. He had 2 fellas with him who didn't have electric cars either, and I helped sort him out anyway, and we got him charging, and he was very appreciative. And people generally, when you do come to a charger, if you are stuck, somebody else coming along will be able to help you generally.
And the numbers on the charger points, they work. When you call them, they answer straight away, and they are so helpful. Anytime I've ever had an issue. The thing was, I was very hesitant to just call a number that's there for help, because I think in other aspects of life it never actually helps. So the first time I finally got over that and called, within 5 minutes it's fixed. And it's great, they're always there. Jared, did you ever have any issues charging?
Yeah, probably the first time. I brought up a charger, Brian, I said, "Oh God, this doesn't look like the right one." She said, rang the number, and straight away onto somebody explained exactly what I needed to do. I think at that stage I didn't actually have the card to use the charger, but he just bypassed it and let me in. As you said, they're all very friendly. Annette has mentioned this. I call them the Derek Riley cult. So they're all a bit like Derek. Just they want to help.
Yeah.
They see another electric. It's like, well, I did that journey, so here, I'll help you out. Yes.
Connor, what about you? Any charging issues?
Yeah, once or twice. Just using fast chargers. I'm sure anyone who uses public charging regularly has encountered an issue before. And generally there is support. Phone numbers free to call. Applegreen Electric have a 24/7 support centre, and you call them and they can answer or resolve 90% of your issues remotely. So that's exactly what I did. I had an issue, I called and support was provided.
Just don't be afraid of the chargers. That's it. Annette, Jared, and Conor, thank you so much for your time. If you could give them all a round of applause.
Thank you, Cassie.
And thank you so much.